I am Mark Anthony Peter, as per usual, and Sean Michael Small, as per usual, right? And we're here with our first guest. Get ready to get this topic of discussion started. Joining us is the one, the only, Krisson Seraphim Joseph. Good morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I get
Two fools.
good. Nah, you gotta be the desert excitement.
I would just like to point out, right, that you opted in to the foolishness, so stop complaining.
That is true.
Right? You picked the co-host and you picked the guest.
Hey.
Right? Nobody forced you into the situation, buddy. And you picked the industry and the career. Why are you trying to tear away from me now? Huh?
I can't see my way with you. I cannot see my way. Anyway, Mr. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
So last time you were on set actually was earlier this year when we did Carnival, right? And we can say that is kind of
First
like
episode of Carnival.
the first episode of Carnival. So now this you're on the
Featured
first
guest.
episode of season 2 of Breakthrough. So
I just first right through.
I mean,
Right.
technically, I think you were also my first artist interview solo that I've ever done. Back in North Coast Jazz, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
After your set, a great set by
you.
one Mr. Joseph.
Thank you.
Showed his, because I knew he was a Calypsonian before. Mark recommended me to go see one of his concerts. And, but then, of course, he did more than that on the North Coast. So, I was thoroughly impressed.
I'm wondering, am I the first? Because I'm first, am I like the guinea pig? Like, let's try this out, see how it goes.
well, speaking of another first,
I did have a lecturer who had my group go first in one assignment because he wanted to set the tone. So you set the tone.
Right.
But he was actually, when I first started music, he was the lead singer of the first band I was in.
Oh, look at that.
Yes, that is very true. Back in,
Even more first.
I was high. But anyway, so
were you really in the band, or were you more like,
It was my band.
It was your band?
yes. I got my dad and we got some friends and this good fella right here graced us.
You're lucky.
First one.
Yeah, and we could.
That's like getting Michael to be Patty Jackson's before he, goes solo, You're lucky.
Now, granted, he's seen me grow up, so he's been around, but and things were very successful. But like speaking of success, so it's a topic that we always talk about, and it's a question that I try to ask our spotlight guests, like how do they define success? Because I think success means different things to different people, and we want to talk about redefining success, especially as artists, because we may see this particular role. If I don't land this role and I just do something else, that means I'm not successful. If I am only in a band and not a solo act, then I'm not successful. If I'm only a choir, then this happens. If I'm only a choir member and not the conductor, I'm not successful, or the director or something like that. So
Soloist, if I'm not
or the soloist and stuff like that. So I'm gonna ask you the question: how do you define success? And it kind of, this topic of discussion kind of came from a blog post where it's like, is success getting the good grades, getting the top role, or is it making your own contribution wherever you can?
So I see two sides of a very important coin here, the success coin. And on the one side, when we start to get into adulthood and starting to make our way in the world, then I think it's unfortunate that so many artists measure success by popularity or by whether they are making $1 million or $10 million, or am I on a plane every week, 3 times a week. That's great stuff. But when I ask someone who didn't go into the arts, whether they're successful as a banker or as an accountant, the measure is not, am I the CEO or do I own this company? The measure is, am I able to take care of my family? Are my bills paid? Am I taking care of my business? Am I doing the stuff that needs to be done as a responsible member of my society?
Right.
So if that's success for everyone else, then make it success for you as well. So that's that side. I think it's important to figure out, as a performing artist, am I able to get those basic things done and contribute? That is success. On the other side of the same coin, success for an artist, I think, should also be about what are you saying? So are you in this space making, this is now not the contribution of the physical contribution, you know, I'm paying bills. This is the contribution of an artist as a commentator, as an educator, as an entertainer. Are you bringing those things to people? And if you are, then again, that's success. So that's what I would measure success as for.
Okay. Now you mentioned telling stories. Now we all know how, and there was a recent article that came out there. We all know how Calypso started, and you know it was a matter of
you'd be you'd be surprised.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we all know the general public consensus of how Calypso started. To learned technicians like yourself, we might not know that much, but for the sake of the conversation.
and we are willing to hear and to be educated. But it was really came down to a matter of, most of it, a matter of sharing information and just telling stories, as you said, right? But it seems as though, and this happens in other styles of music as well, it seems as though, to me, there may need to be a shift happening. Maybe people aren't aware of the true origin story, and that's why maybe it's not appreciated as much as it should be. Maybe that's why it's not as followed as much as it should be, because, you know, there were days when, you know, we had 4 channels on the TV, right? And so we were engrossed in it was being shown. So now we have streaming, now we have 1,000 and 1,500 channels, and people are choosing other things except.
And there were music videos for Calypso.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if you have that anymore.
Right.
Now it's just
So it's
soca,
like-
if anything.
Right. So it's like, so how does the legacy of Calypso and the success of Calypso keep going in your opinion? And what do people need
To couch it, because in the article, David Runner is quoted as saying, well, Calypso is in a weak spot right now.
I think so, yes, that's what
Yeah.
he said. So what are your thoughts on that? And
I feel like you said a lot, and I don't even know what to respond to first. With respect to, let me go with the last thing, that Calypso is in a weak spot. I could understand why that is the popular and overarching view of where Calypso is. However, I think we need to sometimes start by thinking about, again, how do we define success? So that it is not a new argument. Even when there were 4 channels on TV,
right.
people were saying, I can find Calypsos from when there were 4 channels on TV, when there was 1 channel on TV, when there were 2 radio stations complaining about there not being enough Calypso on the radio or on the TV. So that's not a new complaint.
Okay.
We have, from the very beginning, had a problem with appreciating ourselves. And that also is not by accident. That is by design. So that the people who brought us into this space, it was always important for them to keep us subjugated. And physical subjugation gets tiresome for everybody involved. But if the subjugation is mental and spiritual, then they just set it in motion and let it go. And so that's where we still are.
Yeah.
We're still dealing with the idea that what others do is better than what we do. Social media makes that worse. because there is so much more of what other people do in our face all the time.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I think there's so many studies that show how dangerous social media has been for the psyche of the human being.
Yeah, yeah.
So that you have a people who are already subjugated in their minds. They already feel less than.
Right.
Even if they don't say it, they show it in the way they operate. And now you add to that this new media that says to everybody, you're not doing enough, you are not enough, you're not good enough. Mm-hmm. Look at this one, look at what they're doing, look at that one, look at what they're doing. What are you doing? And so the challenge of Calypso, or the challenge that Calypso is facing really is the challenge that we as a nation are facing.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we recognize that, then we would be more prepared to put the resources and the brain power into creating a space for Calypso, because we would recognize that that would in fact redound to us as a people being in a better place.
So you mentioned about the whole social media thing, and I have spoken, Sean and I have had discussions about it before, the sort of overconsumption, the information overload. Mm-hmm. And you said, look at all of these people. And it's 30-second videos, yes, but it's one after the next after the next.
Yeah,
giving you the same information.
You can get doom scroll, is that what they call it?
The dooms,
well,
yes.
I mean,
dooms,
I don't know
yes.
if that's what it's called, but that is apt because every now and then, I don't do this all the time, but every now and then I get stuck for 4 hours just. Well, not 4 hours, but maybe
no, but it
like,
happens to people.
But it just happens.
People lose their entire day doing this.
Yeah, because,
it's crazy.
It seems really short, 30 seconds, until you
and
realize
then
how
you're
many
like,
30 seconds you
one
give
more.
up.
So that was funny. Let me watch one more. That was funny. One more.
Exactly.
One more, and then
it just becomes a habit. So it's insane to me because it's almost like we approach this topic like Calypso is this thing that can fix itself, when it's really a lot of us are not choosing to participate because we're choosing other things, and to his point, without any sort of conscious choosing, it's sort of subconscious because you're subjugated, as he said, you're subjugated by this thing.
I think it's maybe marketed to say minimal conscious thought, because like you initially like, oh, I'll just watch, and like you're kind of just one more. Mm-hmm. So you're falling for the trap, but you are technically actively choosing to start that ball rolling.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes. And then you're not careful to stop it, because if you really, decided to, you could stop. So to some extent, it is us falling for that trap, because, really and truly, why are you watching a couple hundred YouTube shorts or TikTok videos? Like, why? There's no
there's
actual
life to be
purpose
lived.
for this.
Exactly.
Right? None whatsoever, because half of it is going to be completely random to you. The other half might be based on the algorithm, but half of it will be like some nonsense that, you might not even enjoy. It might be somebody's live stream, they're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll just keep going.
Well, as you mentioned, the algorithm is just going to continue feeding that, because if you don't partake in a certain thing, the algorithm won't continue feeding you that thing.
Well, so the algorithm changes the algorithm.
It does.
It's just the program for these online things, what they do to feed you videos and recommendations, and that changes when they think they know the best way to change it, and it just causes all kind of issues.
It changes the better they think they know you.
Well, now, yes, that's what they're striving for, because they want advertising dollars. Yeah. But actually, the two points I think are interconnected, because one of the things that Rudder brought up was the fact that Dimashkra, it turned Calypso into, well, we're just competing for the check. Mm-hmm. Right? And then one of the things with the blog post was talking about the fact that in art, too many people are competing for limited jobs. Mm-hmm. Limited solo jobs. There's only one Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera. Mm-hmm. There's only one Simba in the Lion King. Right? There's only one conductor of this orchestra. There's only one writer of this whatever. Mm-hmm. There's only one director for this film.
Which brings me back to my first point.
What is?
Can you still pay your bills?
Yeah.
Do your children still go to school? Are your children still fed? You're a success.
But then
never mind that you're not the Phantom. Maybe one day you'll be the phantom. Maybe you'll never be the phantom. It doesn't matter.
The blog post had a good point where they highlighted a music teacher that successfully allowed people to participate meaningfully. There wasn't just participation trophies
Right.
that felt
Meaningful
empty to everybody and made
Yeah.
people upset, right? And lessened the value of participating. It was honest participation and collaboration.
Right.
And is it that, and perhaps going back to what you said, we think that everything outside is so much bigger and better and more lucrative, so we kind of underestimate the potential here. Does that in some ways contribute both the competitiveness and underestimating what we have? People aren't necessarily willing to collaborate because we don't see the opportunity in the pie could be bigger, you know? The pie is small because we don't collaborate, because we don't try to grow it. The pie could be bigger. And then we could all pay our bills. But right now, what we have is some people are able to pay their bills. Other people have to have a day job to pay their bills while they kind of struggle away. And it's this zero-sum game of competition, right? That maybe it's because that's what we kind of turned it into. All of a sudden now, instead of growing an industry, like compete. Best band, best soca, best road march, best Calypso Monarch, right? Compete, right?
Yeah.
It's fine for an award show. But the industry is so tied to these things. Look what it did to soca with Soca Monarch when they put serious money into the system. All of a sudden, things took off, but it couldn't have been sustained.
Well, I don't know if it couldn't have been sustained. Like, why Soca Monarch failed might be a whole different...
Well,
That's a whole other thing.
That's my very oversimplistic take. But back to Calypso.
But I think competition is a part of life.
Right.
Yeah.
But do we maybe compete too much in the arts sphere, or it should be fine?
I think the question probably becomes, how do we deal with competition? So, for instance, people tend to make this great demarcation between an award show, for instance, and a Calypso Monarch competition.
Right.
They're not that different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
If I win the Grammy, suddenly I am selling 10 million records. Less people even knew who I was. So they are also competing.
Yeah.
If I win the Calypso Monarch, now I get hired to go to Miami, to New York, to wherever, London. I make the circuit because now I've won. They're both doing the same thing. I think what becomes important is the way we deal with winning and losing. So that I didn't win the competition, does that mean now
I have no value.
I have no value, I have nothing to do,
Yeah.
I should just sit down and wait? Does the person who won the competition look down on me, or does the person who won the competition recognize, well, boy, it was my night tonight, it could be your night next time?
Yeah.
Does the person who won the competition recognize that when I'm going to Miami, it might make sense to bring you with me so that someone in the audience may not even see me as their cup of tea, but they still had a good time in the show because I brought you and they really loved you. So now we have one more fan of the music. May not be one more fan of Krisson, but one more fan of the music.
Yeah.
And so it keeps building that way. I will say that, and actually my cousin pointed this out to me this weekend. I saw him, Chucky. So Chuck is pointing out to me, in response to me telling him that I went to the Audacity of Kaiso at Central Bank this weekend.
Right.
Stacey Sober's show. And it's like how wonderful it was that I had a really good time. I enjoyed it from the very start to the very end. The show started here and it never came down. It just kept going. And, you know, we were both very happy for her. And like, yeah, we're so glad that her show went well and it sold out and people had a good time. And then he says, you know, have you recognized that there are a lot of shows in that vein happening where an artist hires multiple other artists.
The collaboration.
So it is happening.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
It's happening. We need to sustain it. We need to recognize that there's value in it.
Yeah.
And we need to continue to support each other.
Yeah.
Because supporting each other makes the pie grow. There'll be more people to say, oh, that's something worth going to.
Here's an interesting thought, though, just
Yeah.
to bring that point back to the social media point. Because the one thing I have noticed is social media, because it's a place where people could generate new entertainment models and business models, I have seen success with collaboration, and I do wonder, to what extent is this a little bit of positivity in seeing, yes, we're seeing what other people do, and there's the whole grass is green on the other side, green-eyed monster with envy, but then there's also the, hey, that's a possibility.
Yes.
Of course.
A possibility.
One of the things that, I don't remember who I heard say it, honestly. I'm stealing your idea, whoever you are. That was really beautiful coming out of the horrors of COVID was how much our entertainment sector made use of that time.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
There were lots of folks that sometimes decided because there was no other choice than they had to eat.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to figure
it out.
how to make this phone, this computer, this little microphone I have, how am I going to make this work?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people using those tools more than they would have previously. And that may well be where a lot of the idea of more collaboration started to really pick up.
Right.
If we look at, I don't know what to call these guys. I guess they're content creators, but they're kind of comedians, like all these,
Locals or
locals.
Yeah.
Like Kyle Boss and
these sort of the satiric, these
Yeah,
comedic
these-
people. Yeah.
and how much, so for instance, if I'm into one of them, I really like his videos and I look at him all the time, and then he'll have one of the other guys
With it, yeah.
do a guest thing
Yes.
on his channel.
Yeah.
And so then someone will be like, who's that fella? And they'll realize, oh,
Let me
he's
follow.
popular too.
Yeah.
Let me follow him too. So like things like that are happening, you know.
And they go back and forth on social media with each other as well. Like if you follow one, you'll see the other one appear. So that's
Running out of time.
we're running out of time.
Running out of time, fast.
But really quickly as we head out, I know you have something underneath this desk.
Yes, sir.
Pull it out.
Put it on. All right.
Let me head out with something
Have some music to close the show.
something a little nice.
So-
something a little nice.
Very nice.
All right. Two things I want to do really quickly. I'm in my West Indies shirt. Our ladies are playing in the ICC World Cup. They've got a game tomorrow. If they win, they're into the semifinal. It's simple as that. So we're praying that they get a win. Rally round the West Indies, now and forever. Rally round the West Indies, now and forever more. The Lord Superior.
Yes. Yes.
If you walk around, you're bound to hear the talk. From the small town all the way to New York, Trinidadians saying how Calypso is dying, and his only soul they buying. But let me put them all straight, you know I'm an optimist. Calypso is great, and it will long exist. All of them who saying so, well, little do they know. All of them go dead before Calypso. I know this same Calypso has outlived rock and roll, and Calypso will outlive soul. More fads will come, and when they are gone, this same Calypso will be carrying on. Pam pam pero ro ro ro, bo ro ro re ro ro ro, birum boom boom be. The Trinidadian is an interesting guy. For him, Calypso could live or die. This man is so unconcerned, I don't know when he learned to appreciate what's his own. Just give him something foreign, good Lord, he would buy that fast. You don't care a damn thing, though it could be second class. Once the radio or TV say it's from some next country, he'll say to himself, that must be good for me. But I know this same Calypso will outlive rock and roll, and Calypso will outlive soul. More fans will come, and when they are gone, this same Calypso will be carrying on. The tents are packed up in January. We dancing non-stop, we Calypso crazy. Once it is carnival time, we going out with mine. Every Calypso sounds fine, but when the carnival done and we throw away the mask, we don't care a damn. No, no, no. And when the carnival done and we throw away the mask, all of a sudden, like the kite, so lose its class. Tell me, how could a song be great in February, and soon as March come, lose its quality? I know this same Calypso will outlive rock and roll, and Calypso done outlive soul. More fans will come, and when they are gone, this same Calypso will be carrying on.
Folks, if that does not cause some sort of emotional response in your heart or your soul, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, right? I just know you and I apparently speak in two different languages. Yeah, but that is a master technician at his craft. That's what I'll say about Calypso.
That. Long live Calypso. Krisson, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was great, as per usual, always.
We'll shake hands.
I love this show so much. Y'all, Trinidad and Tobago, have a great week.
That's how we start the first season, the first episode of season 2.
Season 2.
There we go, that's how we start the show.
Yes. Stay tuned for more as we come next week. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, Sean Michael Small, Krisson Seraphim Joseph. Have a wonderful week.